The day started normally enough. Nat rushed around her apartment trying to get ready for work as quickly as she could. She had overslept and couldn't afford to be late again. Grabbing her purse, lunch, and keys, she started to head out the door. She barely made it to work on time. The day went by quicker than usual, considering it was Monday. On the way home, she stopped and grabbed some takeout. Nat was ready for a quiet evening at home. She walked into her apartment and was met by a welcoming meow from her cat. He purred and rubbed against her leg. Nat reached down and pet his back and noticed a small patch of fur missing. As soon as she noticed the bare spot, he started to scratch the spot intently. Nat assumed he was allergic to the new cat food that she had just bought and made a note to herself to buy a different kind the next day. Nat enjoyed her takeout dinner, curling up on the couch while the news reporters droned on. Her cat leapt on the couch and began purring as he lay down and looked up at Nat lovingly as she rubbed his head. He started scratching at the spot that he had been digging at earlier. Nat looked down and was worried when she saw a bit of blood coming from the bare spot. She ran to the bathroom and grabbed the washcloth and dampened it with warm water. When she came back to the living room, the cat was scratching his whole body. He was a whirlwind of black fur, twisting and turning. Nat grabbed him gently and began wiping the warm cloth all over him. It seemed to be soothing the itching a little bit. Nat was very worried about her poor little cat. He had never had an allergic reaction to anything before. She decided that if it wasn't cleared up by tomorrow, she would have to take him to the vet. Usually unable to sleep until the early morning hours, Nat decided to head to bed around midnight. Her cat normally slept peacefully at the foot of her bed, but she could hear his collar jingling as he sat on the floor continuing to scratch himself throughout the night. Nat awoke to a terrible sight. The cat's body was littered with bald spots, some of the bare skin had scabs, and his remaining hair was matted with blood. She called out of work and immediately went to the vet. When the vet called them into the office, he seemed perplexed as he looked over the cat. "I've never seen anything like this. It appears to be an allergic reaction, but I've never seen one this bad," the vet said as he clearly examined the wounds and bare spots. "I'm going to have to give him an injection of common antihistamine. It should help relieve the itching. In the meantime, we need to determine what is causing this reaction. So we'll run some blood and allergy tests." The vet flashed Nat a reassuring smile. "When can we expect the results?" Nat asked, worried. "We'll have them in several days." The vet walked Nat into the waiting room after he'd finished taking some blood, assuring her that the cat would be fine. When she got home, she carried her cat to bed and laid down next to him. To help with his itching, Nat rubbed his body gently. All of a sudden, she felt a terrible burning sensation in her index finger. It felt like she had just stuck her finger in an open flame. She looked down, and her finger was a deep red with 2 small pinpricks at the tip. She ran into the bathroom to wash her hand. The cool water seemed to help a little bit, but it still felt like her finger was on fire, like it was going to fall off her hand at any moment. She texted her boyfriend Kyle, and he came to comfort her. "Maybe you shouldn't let the cat sleep with you until you know what's making his hair fall out. Maybe he has some sort of mange or something," Kyle offered as he examined her hand. The swelling had gone down, but the burning sensation was still there. Her finger and hand started to tingle a little bit. "You're right. I'll make sure that he isn't on or near the bed until we figure out what's going on," Nat said through a yawn. Nat and Kyle went to bed shortly after discussing the ailments that the cat was suffering. In the middle of the night, Nat woke up to her whole body burning. She was covered in a cold, clammy sweat. Her skin was damp and itchy. She made her way to the bathroom and scratched all over her body. Her nails dug into her legs and arms. Her hair seemed to be burning her head. She started to scratch her scalp and stopped suddenly when she noticed a tinge of red under her nails. "Nat? Are you okay?" Kyle asked from the bedroom. "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just going to take a shower," she replied. Kyle appeared in the doorway of the bathroom. "Are you sure you're okay?" Nat looked at him and gave a weak smile. "I'm fine. I'm just so itchy. I think the cat's just psyching me out. I'm sure I'll be better after I take a shower." Kyle nodded, and Nat turned on the shower and stepped in. The warm water made the itching calm down. Nat got out of the shower, took an aspirin, and returned to bed. The next morning, Nat woke up in sheer pain. Her whole body was itching. She felt like she was covered in mosquito bites, and the more she scratched at her skin, the worse the itching got. She got up and found a note on the table. "Sorry I left without waking you up, sweetie. I had to go to work early for a project I'm working on. I think we should stay apart until we figure out what's going on with you and the cat, just in case it's contagious. I love you." She tossed the note aside and called her boss. As soon as he heard potentially contagious, he told her to stay at home until her ailment cleared up. She flopped down on the couch and casually started to scratch her leg while she watched the morning weather. Soon she thought that she heard something dripping onto the couch. Then she looked down. She saw several open wounds on her leg. They were long, thin, and looked like long claw marks. Nat ran to the bathroom to examine herself closely. She didn't realize that she had been scratching that hard. She wrapped her leg up in gauze and decided to take some sleeping pills. Sleeping would be better than scratching holes into her leg. But she didn't sleep very well. Nat woke up to a loud meow coming from the kitchen. She looked at her alarm clock. 9 p.m. The sleeping pills had really knocked her out. She shook her head and stiffly stood up. Turning on the kitchen light, she put her hand over her mouth and gagged. The cat was lying on the floor on his side. His body had a few tufts of hair left. His skin was thick with scabs that oozed from the infection. It looked like he hadn't eaten in months. His skin clung to his bones and his eyes were missing. He must have scratched out his own eyes, Nat thought, as tears welled up. She knelt down beside him, and he began purring weakly. Nat picked him up and put him on his bed. She ran into the bathroom to get some gauze to patch the cat up until the morning, but she crumpled to the floor. Her skin itched so badly. She pulled the gauze of her leg and looked at the wound. She dug her nails into the wound and started to scratch as deep as she could. The itching had calmed a little, so she moved to her right arm, and then her left arm, then her stomach and back. Nat continued to scratch, even though after scratching her scalp, she had chunks of flesh and hair dangling from her nails. She looked at her thigh, and she could almost see her femur. Despite that, she dug her finger so far down into her leg that her nails started to chip as it scratched the bone. Her eyes started to itch. She just wanted the itching to stop. She ran into the kitchen and grabbed a spoon and dug it deep into her eye socket. The cool metal felt wonderful on her itching eyes, and she twisted her wrists and her eyes popped out of the sockets. She could still feel it itching as it dangled by her face. She grabbed it and ripped it out of her head, letting out a painful scream, but finally her eye didn't itch anymore. Several days passed, and Kyle felt bad for leaving her alone. But he didn't want to get whatever sickness she had. He went to her apartment to check up on her and knocked on the door. No answer. He grabbed the spare key from under the mat and unlocked the door. There was an awful putrid smell in the apartment, like rotting garbage. "Nat!" he called out. He walked through the apartment calling out to Nat, but never got a response. He opened the bathroom door and immediately threw up. There on the floor was Nat. What was left of her. Her eyes were gone. Her arms and legs were bare of most of the skin. Most of her scalp was missing, and her fingertips were covered in blood. Her nails looked like they had been ripped off. He jumped when he felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. "Hello?" he answered meekly. "Hi, this is the vet office. You were listed as the secondary contact for the cat, that we were unable to reach Nat. The blood work for the cat came back, and it's very strange. Venom from a burrowing recluse spider was found in his system. The known side effects from this venom are extreme itching and rotting of the skin and psychosis. The strangest thing we found out from a local arachnologist is that these large spiders are known for burrowing into the skin and living in the host. I'm sorry to say this, but I'm not sure that there's much we can do for the cat. He needs to be quarantined as soon as possible. All reported interactions with this spider are fatal. Kyle stood there for a moment, his mouth wide open. He dropped the phone as he watched a large, brownish-black spider crawl out of Nat's mouth.